I'm someone who is constantly working on myself, but I find the way that I do self-development, self-improvement is a very holistic way. To some people, they would think I'm very undisciplined just because I don't follow their structure, their typical structure to improve. And I've had to do a lot of trial and error, also internal shifts and self-work to work on becoming the best version of myself. So I thought I would share some of the things that I have done and the things that I plan to do to continuously level up. And the reason why I do think this is very important and not so superficial, just becoming the best version of myself for the self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess it can sound a little bit superficial and vain for that to be your main focus on life. But I think if you do have the luxury to put in effort and time to yourself, then you should, because every other area of life, that will only improve it. A lot of us are taught that desire is selfish. We should suppress our desires. Actually, this is the root of a lot of hatred in this world. People are suppressing their true selves instead of understanding, no, we're meant to listen to that. That's actually a guide. As cliche as it sounds, I wholeheartedly believe you would not have a dream or a vision or be attracted towards something if you were not meant to follow it. It is there for a reason. And humans, we need purpose to feel fulfilled, to feel happy. You could have everything in life but still not feel fulfilled because you're not working towards something. So I don't think it's vain at all. I think it's very important if you, again, have the luxury in life to work on becoming the best version of yourself. The thing about desire is you can't even hear your own desires and know what you like or know what you should pursue if you're not creating the room for it. You have to have a little bit of exploration in your life, and you need to be able to question things, question your environment, and to question what you've been taught. There's a lot of people that I have run into, girls specifically, where they come from very different cultures than I've come from, but we all have one thing in common. If we were to follow the path of our soul, our parents would not approve of it. My parents have said to my face when I broke free from what was expected of me and I followed what I wanted to do, they've said okay, this is a disgrace, this is a disappointment to our family. And I'm in my head, I'm that's ridiculous because I'm not following this certain script, but some people, they say, no, I can't do this. And it's bound in their culture, but you have to choose your life. Your parents don't know why you are here. Only you can find why you're here. And if you're listening to other people dictate your life, doing what's expected of you, you're never allowing the space to create the life that is in alignment with your soul. Sometimes we think we want something and we mistake it as desire, but really it is just conditioning, and we're just following what we think is expected of us. Sometimes we think we are following our desire, but really it is just a trauma wound, or we are trying to medicate an identity wound and try to fill some gap. It's not coming from our soul. It's not coming from who we are before all of the conditioning and the traumatic experiences that tend to happen on this earthly plane. Following your desire and creating a space is very important, but also clarity is something you also need. Desire is really the first step because the universe responds to clarity, and you cannot create clarity without desire. You have to first give yourself permission to dream, give yourself permission to have desire, and sometimes that looks like exploring things and trying different things until you really find out what you desire. There are so many years that I spent doing different things, and people would tell me, people would say, stop wandering, stop soul searching, stop spending time doing all of these things. It's time to do this, do that, do that. And sometimes the answer is not always locking in. There's seasons for that. If you are just locking in and focusing and you think that's the only way to get the life that you want, it's not. There is a different system that the universe operates on, and it's not hard work. To get the life that you want, you need to put aligned action. You need to have a work ethic. If you just sit there and you manifest, yes, you do have to believe it, and that's part of it and what we're going to get into, but there's also this dualistic nature to it. You have to have harmony. It's all about alignment. There was years in my life where I was just exploring. I was trying different things. I kind of had my foot in a million different things. And I think that if you don't know what you want to do in this life or what your soul's calling is, and you have the opportunity. Like, I was young doing this, I'm still young, but I was young doing this, so I had the opportunity to go to high school, like to try different things, to go to school, to backpack the world, to just do what I felt like might give me something. If I felt like something is off, I was never afraid to, maybe I was a little afraid, but I still did it anyways. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna transfer universities because this one's not clicking, this one's not sitting right for me, I want to try something else. And I kept searching instead of just staying with the first thing I chose. A lot of people will say, like, just pick something. I didn't know at the time, but something within me knew that was not the right answer. Maybe for other people that worked, but it was not working for me. I either had to listen to what everyone around me was doing. Everyone around me was staying in school, was thriving in university, had friends. I became such a loner, and it was just not the case for me. I never felt fulfilled. I never felt like I fit in there. I didn't. I never was concrete in one place. I was constantly hopping around on these different things, trying different things, worked in different environments, and each of these revealed things about myself or brought me closer to what I wanted to do little by little. And sometimes that meant failing. Sometimes that meant doing something and realizing, okay, well, I want to go in the complete other direction, but at least I know I don't need to go down that route anymore. So sometimes desire is not so clear, but you need to give in to your desires to get that clarity. And then once you do that and you explore, you can then create a vision. And taking the time to create a vision is very important. I spend a lot of time doing nothing, but I create visual vision boards and things like this. I love really being intentional and getting clear on what I want. I manifest things because it comes into my reality, and the part of that is because I create the vision that I want. I wanted to go to a farmhouse. I was in London. I loved where I was in London, my time there, but I was over it. I was like, okay, I've been here a couple months. I am someone who likes changing my environments every couple of months. I like changing my environments. At least that's what I like doing in this phase of my life. I find when I'm going through a creative shift, I need a new environment. Every time I visualize something and I decide and I get the clarity and I actually make the shift in my mind and I say, no, this is what I want, I get clear on it, something happens out of nowhere. I get this opportunity and it's just like handed to me. There's a way appears because I make the decision, because I understand that's how, I don't want to call it the universe, let's just call it the universe, whatever. That's how the universe works. It responds to clarity. I think it's okay to have one foot in, one foot out, and that's when you're still exploring things. Like when I said I had my foot in a million different directions, that is true because I didn't know what I wanted. I had one foot in with school all the time and it was like a safety net, but I knew like I never fit in there and I just kept exploring. But then when I get the clarity now, because I also have new understandings of this is how the world works, and we aren't taught that. We aren't taught that we can create our own way. We are taught in a logical system way that we need to work in one linear way to create our own reality, but we don't realize the infinite potential and abilities of our souls. If we want something, we can create it, but you have to believe you can do it, and you have to visualize and you have to get clear on it. It's not just about manifesting our realities and creating our realities. It's also about getting clear on what you desire and what you need, and that requires listening to yourself. You look around, I don't know, maybe it's just online, but you do see a lot of people that are the same. They dress the same, they wear the exact same things, and it's like the same style. People don't question anything. It's like they don't cultivate their own taste. I think it's very rare to find individuals that are cultivating their own taste at questioning, like, is this something that I desire? And then I feel like people feel disconnected from themselves. From the outside, people can look happy, but I think that when you don't have this true individual connection to who you really are, I don't think that happiness comes from that. I heavily look at life in seasons, and I look at the past few years in a very different way that I think a lot of people look at how I've spent the last few years. So I think from an outsider's perspective, if I would kind of describe in general how the last few years have been, or if you just looked at the last few years, you would think, okay, well, yeah, I've changed, I'm drastically different. But what I have produced externally when it comes to work and some things, it does feel like it kind of just went by so fast, and I feel like I never really got anything tangibly done. If I were to compare myself to someone my age and that maybe was focused on heavily their career, then yeah, like I could compare myself and be like, okay, well, what have you done? Like, you're lazy. But that's not true, because I was honoring these transformations that I was going through, because I was in a completely different phase of my life, and I I started to look at that period of time, this last few years of, no, I did not do nothing. I worked on myself, and I gave myself the time. I bought myself time, and I bought myself space to process things in my mind. And so many people, they don't give themselves that time, that space, because for you to pause in your life when you are young, society expects you to climb this ladder of your career and to take a pause on everything that you're doing in that way, especially when you're ambitious. It kind of can take a hit to your ego, but sometimes you have to take a few steps back to gain space for your soul, where your soul can exist and to breathe. It's very humbling, because the environments and stuff that I had to go to almost like restart, because I had to walk away from so many things that I thought were me, and I was like, you know what, I had to start over a million times. I just don't view it as starting over. So everyone has different circumstances in life, and some people can wake up at 50. 50 is not old. It really isn't. It's all subjective. Like, the human body can live to 200 years, I believe. But someone could wake up and decide, I want to change my life. Like, if you're still alive on this earth in your body, you can constantly change your life and decide something different. There's no rules, and you can constantly cultivate a new reality and achieve everything that you desire and you want. Nothing is unrealistic, but sometimes that does mean to make change, you have to take action, and you have to sometimes taking action sometimes means taking one step back to cultivate the room to just explore and to just process things. I have this long distance friend, and I was kind of talking to her one day. She was saying that, I don't know, I think I was kind of down because I was like, what have I done this summer or something? Like, I felt I was kind of like being a little bit down on myself, and she was like, you have taken this time, and some people don't take it until like they're 30 and they're 40. They don't take time to process everything and to unravel and to experience that. And I realized it's so true. If you don't take this time to detox everything that you've been taught and to really question everything and to get familiar with your soul, it's not going to change in the future. Like, you have to create the space to get familiar with your soul. I never viewed this time as a waste. I viewed it as an investment. You need to have a long-term mentality with it. I've had to bite my ego because I felt like I did take some steps back in some senses, a few steps back for a few steps forward, because when you follow your soul, you follow your desires and you create that space, of course it's always going to propel you forward in life because you're going towards what your soul wants. And I think that a life, if you're not following your soul, if you have that luxury, because again, some people are born into certain situations where they do not have that luxury. If you have that luxury, I feel like you have to take it, because if not, you're risking the end of your life, and you're just going to, even if you became successful, like, success is so subjective. Success in society's eyes, in my eyes, is not really success. It's all about, to me, is like, did you live a life that was true to yourself? That's success. Someone said to me one time, it's so easy for you to say, it's so easy for you to follow your creative pursuits because, like, look how creative you are. I'm like, you have no idea how many times I continuously fail. I constantly fail at things. I'm a big believer that you cannot really figure out who you are if you don't have a clear mind. And I think it's very, very, very important to detox. If your mind is not yours, if you don't have a clear mind, you can't really do much in this life. You can't really know yourself. Brain fog's a real thing. And if you're eating seed oils that are causing you all these problems or diseases, you are not going to be able to think for yourself. The human body hardly functions as it is. So I'm a big believer. I believe that, as annoying as it is, eating healthy is so important. I'm very strict in the sense that, like, I will only eat whole foods, but I obviously don't deplete yourself. Like, I don't diet. I just eat healthy. Whole foods is easy. I also do believe that if you're on medications, I know some people think medications really help them, but I often wonder, do they really help you? Maybe I'm just speaking from my experience. Maybe it's just I've had traumatic, like, horrible experiences with medication, but my major was in chemistry, and I do know some things about, like, what is in these medications. My mom is a pharmacy technician. She went back to school after my parents got divorced because she had no job. She had no money, so she went to school and became a pharmacy technician. Her now husband is a pharmacist, and there is, like, certain things in medications. Like, I looked at my sister's Adderall. I've never had Adderall in my life, but I'm pretty sure there's, like, in Canada at least, there's methamphetamines in that stuff. And, like, of course you think it helps you, like, it keeps you addicted. When I was on medications, I went on birth control when I was very young. I had acne, and at the time, like, I didn't know they were putting me on birth control. So in Canada, there's different types of birth controls, and the one I was on was the strongest, but I literally did not know it was birth control because I was not going on it for birth control. I was going on it because I had acne, and like as a teenage girl, when you have acne, I was like depressed. It was really affecting me. I mean, anyone that had acne, it's like devastating, especially when you are a teenager. So they put me on this, like, it was called acne therapy or something, but it was birth control, and holy shit, it did fuck up my mind. Like, I was mental. I was completely fine before that. I was kind of confused like what was going on, but I trusted the healthcare. I trusted my doctor. I started to get really, really bad mental health, like really bad anxiety. I could not control my mind, up and down, like panic attacks. That was because of the birth control. It literally makes you mental. Yeah, I've been off that for years, and I'm the most level-headed person. Like, my emotions never rise. I mean, that's partly because I've done healing work and I don't get triggered by things, but like, I swear, anyways, it's a little bit of a tangent. I swear that people don't need these medications like they think. Nature is the medicine. Like, it's the medicine. I know that sounds very hippie, but like, once you see it, you can't really unsee it. And yes, there's certain things that can help us not die. I understand that. I'm not so extreme when it comes to these things, but a lot of these medications are harming us more than they are helping us. So it's just something to consider. I know it's annoying if like you're dying and you have cancer, and like, I think there's some situations where it's different and like medicine can help, but also understand that like the industry is not pure. It's not designed to heal us. There's some medications that I'm sure that can help, but there's a lot of medications that are causing you to not be able to think for yourself. It's not just my example. Like, I have other examples, but I'm not going to explain them because they were told to me in confidence from other people. And even if I say like, oh, this is a story about my ex and all stuff, but like, I don't know, people might be able to find that and target someone else, and it's not my story to tell. But there's so many things I've heard in horror stories, people that are actually in touch with themselves, and how medication can really fuck up your mind. So eating healthy in medicine is like not just about superficial aspects of the body. Like, detoxing when it comes to those things is very, very important. We're also not taught that like we can fast. Oh my god, I did a fast a couple years ago because I felt really weird a few years ago, and it was Canada, it was winter, or it was like, was it spring or winter? I don't know. I felt so strange, and I felt like I became disconnected from my spirituality, like the connection or something. And I mean, this happens to me all the time. Like, I will go into like intense periods of feeling connected, and then I will just come back to like more centered. Now I know that, but I was like freaking out at the time. And I was like, this food's poison. Even though I was buying all organic food when I was in Canada, like, I just felt so strange. Like, my head felt fuzzy. So I did a fast. I was like, you know what? I researched so much about it, and was it like 30 days or 40 days? I did a fast, and it completely transformed so much for me. We are not taught that that's actually healing. Like, that can reset your entire body. I think it can like reverse aging by 7 years or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but I do think fasting is a way to help you get rapid clarity. I did another fast this summer. It was a 30-day fruit fast, and holy shit, like, I've never been that spiritually connected at that time that I was doing a fast, and I got so much clarity during that period. So it's just something to consider. Like, there's different types of fasts that you can do. It can help alleviate any of that fogginess if you do struggle with that. That's a really rapid way to become the best version of yourself in other ways, because I was also struggling with, like, I experienced so much the last couple of years, like mold toxicity, which really took a toll on my physical appearance. Like, I felt like I became uglier for a period of time, and I feel like now I'm starting to look like myself again. I do feel like that fast this summer helped with that. So I don't want to be preachy, but like, and just be like, okay, this is the only way, and nature is the only way. And just because I experienced something, that doesn't mean that it's the only truth. But I think it's just something to consider, because sometimes like we think we need these medicines, and we think we need food constantly. We think we need 3 meals a day. But what if you just realize, oh, maybe I don't, and maybe this is actually preventing me from reaching the best version of myself. Detoxing is not just about what you put in your body, it's also about the environment. Environment can affect different people in different ways, like anything does, but we don't realize how influential we are to environments. And this could be your family, your friends, who you spend time to, what you listen to. If something is causing you anxiety, and you know that is causing you anxiety, why not just cut it off. I think cutting things off is hard, but at the same time, if you don't remove it, it will become your reality. What you are not choosing to create space for or cutting off, you are choosing. So if you're around friends and you feel like that life is not really for you anymore, then you're really doing a disservice to your soul by continuing to be around people. Now, I don't think like everyone needs a drastic cut off. Like I cut everyone off all the time, and I don't really have people in my life, but that's because I don't know, like I don't like people. Like I like people, I don't know, I like being alone. So I think for anyone to get what they want out of life, you don't have to be alone all the time. Like you don't have to be a complete loner like me. You do need to spend a lot of time alone with yourself. And that also means what you consume, because what you consume on the internet nowadays is really affects us. Like it really infiltrates our minds, can really just serve as a major distraction. There's a few creators which I really gravitate towards, I really love. I spend so much time listening to people, listening to podcasts. Oh my God, I love podcasts. And that was like what I was doing for the most of the day. And I felt like I was being productive, but really it was just a distraction. Now I still listen to podcasts like every day, but instead I'll just do it like when I'm going on a walk. I will habit stack, and habit stacking is the best thing ever. So if I want to listen to a podcast or a YouTube video or an audiobook, I love audiobooks because I don't really read physical books much, because again, I just love habit stacking. And the reason that I'm reading is because I read for information, for knowledge for the most part. So if you're doing laundry, or if you're driving, or if you are doing something where you kind of want to turn your brain off, or you want going to sleep even, I don't know, your subconscious is listening. So you can play podcasts then, and you can get information. And then there's periods of time in my life where I'm like, I need to be in the silence, because again, if you're not creating space for that silence, how are you ever going to question anything? And if you don't question anything and everything that you've been taught, then you don't really know what's true. I don't think there's one true reality, but what is true will be what resonates most with your truest self. And if you don't take that time to question the conditioning, this invisible web of beliefs, habits, and norms that we've absorbed since we were, kids, then you'll just socially engineer this life and this persona, and you'll feel disconnected from who you really are. It's very uncomfortable to go against everything that you have been taught, but it's much more uncomfortable to live a life that you don't even know yourself. A radical self-observation. There's no becoming the best version of yourself, having the best life without radical self-observation. So yeah, you definitely have to be self-aware to become the best version of yourself. And the thing about radical self-observation is you're observing yourself through life. Like I always say, life flows through you. Observe yourself. If there's something that you want to change, then you can always change that, and just be aware of it and don't judge yourself. Conditioning does operate subconsciously, so the first step is always to shine light on it. If you are speaking to someone and you realize, okay, I'm doing this happened to me recently. It's recently come to light how I come across way too nice when I talk to people and I initially meet people. I'm like, hi, I'm just come across so nice to the point that I'm like, this is too nice. You're people pleasing. You're still people pleasing. Okay. Why am I people pleasing? Why do I want these people to like me? Well, I want these people to like me because maybe I want them to see my good heart. I have a good heart, and I want this opportunity. But it just felt kind of like fake to me. I wasn't trying to intentionally be fake, so that's something I'm going to work on. I'm not like, oh, you're fake. I wasn't like being hard on myself. I was like, hey, well, we need to work on this, and there's other reasons why my overly niceness is really sabotaging my life, because also I come across as naive and stuff like that. So that's just one example of how self-observation, and I become a better version of myself by being aware and wanting to change that aspect, but also understanding that, okay, well, once I'm aware, I can now in the next moment I am to meet someone new, I can be nice, but not to the point that I'm like overextending myself and breaking my back and just being like laughing and being all cutesy, because honestly I'm like that and it's pissing me off. I think brainwashing herself is highly underrated, because going back to what I said before of how the universe or whatever responds to clarity, It literally does, and it responds to belief. Some people think I'm very delusional, but at the end of the day, I literally get everything I want. Everyone's like, oh, you get this, you're spoiled. Actually, I work so heavily on my self-concept and I manifest it. And there are so many opportunities out there that you cannot even think of. And when you believe something, and you actually believe it, the universe has no choice but to respond to you. We think that we need to change something, work towards something, and then that changes, but really it's always responding to us. Whenever I want to believe something, but I'm realizing like it's hard for me to believe something, I will literally gaslight myself through words, through speaking to myself, and eventually I will wholeheartedly be in that mental space and believe it, and before I know it, something will shift and I'll be like, holy shit, because it works. It literally works, but I think it's just hard to get to that point of like actual belief where you're like, no, I believe this. Belief creates the conditions where reality can be built. Reality can be built out of thin air in ways that you cannot even imagine. We are taught to figure out the how, and our logical minds are like, okay, how? I need to do this step, and while it's good to put one foot in front of the other, I think it's way more important to focus on the vision and to focus on feeling that emotion, and because feel the emotion, that's one step, but it's also like having that belief and consistently reconditioning yourself. We are constantly being conditioned. It's not just like we are conditioned once through the education system, for example, and that affects us forever. No, we are constantly being conditioned. There's things from all around us constantly infiltrating our minds, whether we are conscious of it or unconscious of it. There is things constantly coming into our subconscious, and even the words you say, you have no idea how that is creating a new reality. It sounds woo-woo, but it's not. The words are spells. The music we listen to, I don't even listen to music anymore. I listen to classical music sometimes, very selective with podcasts, audiobooks, that's it. I was like manifesting certain things, but it was not what I wanted to manifest because I was listening to music that made me feel understood. Yes, I feel understood and I love music. I'm a Pisces, but at the same time, I was like, no, enough of this. I'm so sensitive. Whenever I listen to a song, I would completely change something. I can't. Like if you listen to a song and be like, I love this song because you resonate with it, but you attract that into your life, those words, you attract those emotions, and something about the energy associated with the song. When an artist makes a song, there's an energy that's put into it, and it's like you are absorbing that. Classical music is very underrated. I listened to a lot of neoclassical in this past year, but I have these playlists I've created and stuff. I mean, I created years ago, and some I created last year, and I felt like they represented a period of my time where I went through. But then I realized all of these periods of my time that I went through where I was so sad for so long, I literally created that reality myself. There's no one to blame. I did this to myself. Setting goals where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to wake up at this time every day, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm just magically going to reach goals. I don't even know where I'm going because I haven't set goals that are personal to me, and you fail and you think I'm not good enough, and it affects your self-concept. Yeah, so that's never really worked for me because I just don't operate like that. I just find these hyper productive, inhumane, unclinical self-improvement ways is not how you level up. I think that's maybe how it works in a man's world or something like that. But I'm a woman and I have a cycle. Yeah, that means like I don't operate off a 24-hour clock. I operate off of, I don't even know, 28 days. Like I literally don't know. I don't track my cycle. I don't want to put myself into a cage. I don't know, maybe tracking your cycle is good. Maybe that's judgmental. But I do listen to my body. I can tell my body is like what my body needs, what I need. So this is the way I do it. I have non-negotiable goals. I have hard goals and I have soft goals. And then I have monthly goals, and this is like not overwhelming at all to me. I feel like this is very healthy, and it allows me to change and it allows me to flow, because there's so much times in one year that things will change and there's things that you don't account for. So I will set an intention of like, okay, what is most important to me for this month? So for this month, what is most important is doing this podcast and stop being a perfectionist and sitting the hell down and doing it, because I want to put out so much more, but I just am self-critical and a perfectionist, and I'm like, well, I want to be a better speaker, and I want to be better at this, and I want to be better at this, and I can improve, but at the same time, if you just wait to become the best version of yourself and you're just continuously waiting, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. Like, you have to allow yourself to show up as you are now, which is very, very difficult, but you have to. Going back to what I was saying about understanding that like it's a journey and that's part of the journey as well, you only have so much that you can focus on in a certain period of time. So what is most important to you? This month where I'm at, there's not really any gyms or anything. Even though it's January, I'm like, yeah, everyone should be working out. I've not worked out the way I would like to work out in the last couple of years because I'm constantly in a new environment. So it's like you have to pick and choose. So what I can do is I can go on walks. This is what I said to myself. I'm going to go on a walk for 2 hours, which is quite a bit, every day. And that's a lot of walking. I want to read books, but I can't do everything. So I'm like, okay, instead of listening to podcasts, at least for like one of the walks, I'm going to go and listen to audiobooks. So I've been doing that. Right now I'm listening to The Red Book by Carl Jung. And honestly, like I don't really intensely listen. I just put things on in the background, and then sometimes my mind takes over and I'm completely not listening. Then I want to do more podcasts and less of excuses of other things, less perfectionism. Those are the 3 things. Those are my things. And then I had a hard goal of waking up. I wanted to wake up again at 4 a.m. But the thing is, at the beginning of January, I was like, I really want to wake up at 4 a.m. But I was like, if I be so rigid with myself, I'm going to set myself up for failure. I'm going to set myself up for failure because you're going to be traveling for days on end and you're going to be exhausted, because I just went from one place to another, and I went from another place. I was there for like a weekend, and I went to a completely different area, and I had to take like multiple trains and multiple Ubers to even get to where I am now. And now that where I am, I'm here for a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, once I get here and once I get settled, I'm going to start waking up at 4 a.m. You need to set goals that are in alignment with you and not like other people's expectations. Like, you need to have ones that are going to set yourself up for success, but also challenge you a little bit. I feel like I've been very avoidant this last little while, and I'm aware of that. I'm like, hey, you've been avoidant probably because of, dopamine and everything. It's just like ruining your brain. So that's my hard goals now. 4 a.m. waking up, at least 2 podcasts a week. I would like to do more, and then walking 2 hours a day. Like, those are my goals, and that's all I'm going to focus on. That's completely manageable and that's completely doable. There's other things I'm working on too. I have like all these different jobs and like things that I do, but those are like my main priorities for things that I need to move the lever for my goals, because sometimes like all our goals can be so overwhelming, and I've always felt like paralyzed by my goals. Taking acceptance for where you are now to move the lever, because I want to move the lever with my life in certain areas, and this is how I move the lever, and I know that because I've gotten clarity on that. So once you have clarity, you just have to take action. Then you can go by step. Like, it isn't this step-by-step process, but once you do have that clarity, you can be like, hey, one foot in front of the other and take the next step to reach your goals. Listen, I've tested my theories, okay? Like, I constantly change my reality. I'm constantly changing my reality and trying to manifest different realities, and it always works. We're like, oh, you're delusional. Well, I'm not, right? Because like, look where I'm sitting. I wanted to sit in front of a fireplace. I had a vision board of a fireplace in my head. Look where I am. It's reality. It works. It works. And you can create your own reality, but do not let other people infiltrate your mind. You need to believe it, and that means not listening to other people. Hard work is not how you get there. It's about your mentality. Hard work is just one thing. It's one part of the equation. Mentality actually matters more than you work hard. I used to be the hardest working person, and that got me nowhere. Like, I used to kill myself, burn myself to the ground, like when I came to my academics studying. I would stay up all night and all these things, and maybe that worked for the academic realm, whatever. But when it comes to the real world and actually being successful in whatever you want to do, manifesting a reality of whatever you actually want, it's actually not about how hard you work, and that's a hard reality to accept. It's about alignment, and alignment is about mentality. If you are self-degrading yourself, it's one thing to be aware and to observe what's going on and to be like, okay, well, I want to change this. Self-love is not just accepting everything about yourself. No, self-love is saying, look at this and I want to change, and I can change. Once you shine light to it, you can take action to correct the behavior. And how you correct the behavior is when it arises, it's next time you're like, okay, well, this is arising. The thought should come up, because that's what self-awareness is. And I mean, I guess everyone doesn't have self-awareness, but if you're watching this, you listen to this, you probably have self-awareness. So then you can change it, and then you can reprogram a new neural pathway in your mind. You should protect your mentality at all costs, and you should not let anyone infiltrate it. The second you catch someone, a friend or something, and you will, when you try to level up and you try to change and question your outcome, you are going to be met with people that are not gonna like it. They're gonna say, who do you think you are? Why do you need this? Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just be satisfied with what you have? I'm sorry if I don't want to be satisfied working a 9-to-5 job that kills my soul. I did not come to earth, or whatever you want to call this place, to do that, right? When I know there's other ways. I am ruthless. I am ruthless because I know the cost it takes to hold on to people and to keep people around that are constantly knocking on you. Those little knacks, they infiltrate and they seep into you, and their doubt becomes your doubt. It becomes a voice in your head that was never there. That's your subconscious. You're saying, well, what if they're right? What if they're this? Even if you're like, well, that's stupid, I don't believe them, but I'm just gonna keep them around because of this or this or this. Well, if you're gonna keep them around, like, listen, everyone has to, you don't have to be as ruthless as me and cut people off, but at the same time, the only reason I've gotten to this place of being so protective of myself and cutting people off is because I realized, why am I gonna have people around me that are trying to bring me down to their level, that don't want me to succeed and reach my goals? Why am I going to have people around me that don't want that for me? And if I had to have people around me, I would put a boundary up. But in my experience, and this doesn't have to be everyone's experience, but my experience, whenever I would ever try to voice, if I felt like someone was not supporting me or was putting me down, if I ever tried to voice that and to be like, well, I don't want you to say this to me, because if you say this to me, then, I don't think I can be around you anymore. Maybe other people, they would be like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, I respect you. In my experience with different people, it's always been like, oh, that's a threat. Are you threatening me? Are you threatening to cut me out of your life? Like, it's always not been taken well, which makes sense, because if for someone to bring you down to say that, they're obviously, one, threatened by you in some way, or don't want you to succeed. So they're not really like on your side. So do with that as you will. It's very lonely, I guess you could say. People say it's very lonely to follow this path, whatever this path is. Everyone has their own path, but yeah, you could say it's lonely to embark on a journey to get out of life whatever you truly want. And I think that it's just like so many people don't embark on a path, the path of their soul's calling, to follow what they really want and desire deep down their soul. Why don't they? They'd rather be surrounded by the comfort of their own life, and that also means friends and family, because I think a lot of people subconsciously know if they went down this path, you would get outcasted. And if they were the true self, because I think normal is a little bit of a myth. The myth of normal, beneath all this normalness, is just facades and people wanting to break free from this and be their true selves, because everyone has a true self. It's just some people have just deeply forgotten it, right? So I think they're like, well, if I break, I would lose all my friends and family. And you probably will, because not a lot of connections are actually genuine. I would rather sit alone than be around people who don't actually genuinely love me for me, than to be surrounded by noise. But some people, that is like terrifying. So they would rather be around people that they think love them. And maybe these people, they think that they love them as well. But instead of going on this journey and being put to the test of true love and these obstacles, I know that, like, even for me and my family, like I've had people in my families like put me down, actually, like be my number one bully. There's some people in my family I've been very close with. My brother and I have always been like best friends. We've actually experienced some challenges which I never really expected, to be honest. If my brother and I went through a fight, which we never used to go through a fight, because we're very open and honest with each other, and I felt like my brother was always my soulmate. And I was like, you're my soulmate in a family full of karmics. But I felt like he was still around my family, and then I was away from him. So I felt like, even if he does think for himself, and he even tells me like our family is so emotionally unavailable, like I just can't, at the same time he is kind of like the diffuser in certain situations. He's kind of the person where it's like, no, I'm gonna create my dreams and my realities as you are, right? But I am more of the like disruptor, where I'm like, I can't be around this, where he's more like, no, I'm gonna be around like both versions. And he has love and capacity, and he can get along with like my other sister, she can get along with my other sister, but maybe he's not as like connected to her because because she's vastly different. She's like the opposite of me. I can't get along with her because to me, I'm like, I tried like 100,000 times. She's evil in my mind. But anyways, topic, not everyone has to be so extreme like me, but I do believe you do have to go against the grain. I mean, let's think about this. Normal today, I'm always dissing society, and I'm like, I will never care what society thinks of me, because imagine being judged by someone who is in society. To me, that's embarrassing. Actually, it is, because it's what's normal. So I just will never care. Like, I think it's such a superpower and a strength to go against the grain. When I was younger, of course, I was just in school. I was like, this is so embarrassing, so mortifying to be different. I hated it. Now I know it's a superpower. I'm trying to lean more into it because there's so many ways in my life that I like made myself conform. And now I'm trying to break free from all the ways I pretended to be normal. And I'm trying to get back to that truest self. I always say like going back to your true self, because I think that sometimes that is success. It's about unraveling a bit and really going back to your true self and creating from that space. I feel like this is a core theme of what I say, but it's true. In this world, more than ever, we have to be very intentional. I get not as distracted when I'm intentional. I find that's kind of like the remedy to not being distracted, because it's not just like, hey, don't do this. It's that if my days are filled up with intention, with, okay, in this moment, this is my intention, instead of just letting it pass me by, I'm having the kind of thought before, like, this is what I'm going to do, then I find myself not having time to do all those bad habits or those things that I want to do. So it's like, again, back to priorities. When I was younger, I went to a naturopath when I was 16, and this naturopath said to me, I forget what we were talking about, but he said to me, when you're laying in bed in the morning, think about what you're going to do and how you want your morning to lay out. And that is something I still am practicing and I'm still working on. It's something I'm trying to do more so. So instead of just like rushing, getting up and just like what just happened, it's okay, I'm intentional. Instead of just go on my phone when I'm eating this food, I'm going to go and make a breakfast instead of just like eating random foods like I always do. I'm going to actually put together. I'm going to sit down, and in this moment that I'm sitting down, I'm going to look at the window instead of my phone, or I'm going to look over some notes or something, or I'm going to write some notes or write some things on my phone. It doesn't matter what it is. I wouldn't force yourself to do something that's unnatural to you. It's fine if you want to go on your phone and multitask and to do that. I know my dad, I always thought he was so cool, because when I would come downstairs when I was younger and he was always on his phone like doing his like business email, that's fine, it's the morning. But then he had a rule when we all sat down for family dinner that we were not allowed the phones. Like if he had a call, he would not answer it. He would not answer it at dinner. So it's not that one is wrong over the other. It's just that was his intention for how the host would operate. So mornings, we're each eating our own different breakfast. Have whatever you want. Maybe some person's having a yogurt bowl, maybe some person's having an omelet, maybe one person's having cereal, sitting on the island eating, because there's five of us. I have a sister and a brother, older sister. I mean, I feel like I'm the older sister, but whatever, and a brother. And then I have a younger stepsister and then a younger stepbrother. I feel like I'm the oldest, but I'm also the middle of my siblings. Yeah, it's irrelevant. I don't know why I said that. It's not about me. Anyways, at dinner, we had to say the best thing of our day. And that was at my dad's house, not at my mom's house, because my parents were divorced. And I'd switch between my dad's and my mom's house every couple days. And when I go back to my mom's, it was like complete opposite, like rushing to sports, my brother was rushing to hockey, rushing to dance, constantly go. And like we literally would eat a rotisserie chicken like most nights with like those taters from the superstore. And it was just completely different environment. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just the intention for those meals was different. So anyways, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I was just trying to say the intention is really important. If you don't have attention as well, you're kind of just drifting through life and you're not really choosing anything. And at the beginning, I was saying that that's kind of important, to allow yourself to drift sometimes and to allow yourself to flow and to not really make any concrete decisions. I have considered, like, do I have commitment issues when it comes to certain things? I have been not committed to anything. I don't commit to people, friends, really, environments. I've really been thinking, do I have commitment issues? And I realized I don't have commitment issues. It's that I allow myself to drift for an extended period of time until I decide on what I want. And then when I figure out what I want, it's based off also how I feel, then I will then make the decision. And then once I make the decision, it's done. It's like, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm doing. And then that's my intention. Okay? So once I drift and I kind of like figure out what I want, then I make the clarity decision, and then there's where the intention goes after the decision, after the clarity, after I already know, okay, I believe this is what's happening. If I decided I want to go to the countryside, going back to this example, I decided before, I figured out what I wanted to do before there was an opportunity. I wanted to be like an old farmhouse or something like that. So I decided that, and I believed I could have that. I believed it, and I visualized it, and then I kind of let it go. And then what happened is an opportunity came up. Of course it did, because it always does. And then I decided, and then I was like, okay, I'm going, no fear, no fear. This is decided. And then I set the intention. What is my intention for this time that I'm here? My intention, well, I've already said my intention, okay? Life moves in cycles. So what you want for the next month or 2 months or however long might not be what you want in 5 months time. And I think it's important to like view life in cycles. So I'm like, okay, for the winter, this is my focus. And a couple months time, like we'll see where I'm at, and we'll reassess, and we'll see if I need to like change anything, if I want to adapt. In a couple months, we'll assess this podcast. Like, do I still want to ramble? Do I want to include things with myself? Because I don't know, maybe I like the vulnerability part. Maybe it's too much rambling. I don't know. So there's things that we can reassess, but first you have to allow yourself to try, and you also have to allow yourself to fail. I really can tell when someone's going to get what they want when they first of all can accept where they are, because I think that's one of the hardest things to overcome, is to accept where you are, like accept what you look like, accept how you talk, accept where you are. And I think when you do have a vision for yourself, and it's like you want so much better for yourself, which is amazing, like having ambition, aspiration for life, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like people, especially in spiritual spaces, like they like to say like, oh, if you have ambition there must be like something wrong with you. But it's like, no, because I just have like, it's like zest for life. And I think for so long I was kind of like, in my teenage years I was so sad, I was so depressed, and I was so nihilistic. And sometimes I still do slip into that like existentialism. I go back and forth between like existentialism and the divine and spiritual. Kind of right now went from God to spirit. There's like a pipeline that I'm experiencing. I don't know if other people experience this. I don't know. I want to research, I want to read books on this, but from like, oh, God saves you purpose, to discovering God and exploring religions, to realizing that even if God's within you, it's like not without, God's not without, and then going to realizing that the myth of God, because it's like it's you, that you create your reality. I don't know if I'm explaining this the best way, but it's true. Why are you praying to something externally when you can command your reality? As people don't understand, that's what Jesus knew. We are all God. There's also a saying, it's like, you are not a drop of the ocean, the entire ocean is within you. So like we are all beings with life, right? And like life creates life. Like we can create our own reality, but you have to believe that you can. I don't know if that really made sense the way I worded it. There's no external force which sent me back from the God, oneness, love, which is paradoxical, because oneness or whatever you feel, it's full and empty. It's like fulfilling and it's empty. It's weird. But then going from that to going back to like existentialism is really rough. But I think the cure to like nihilism, existentialism, all these things is to have zest for life. And that's what I'm trying to say. I know that maybe didn't make sense to many people. I hope it made sense. Whatever. I said it the way I said it. So it is what it is, right? You have to accept where you are. You're not perfect. But your imperfections make you beautiful. Your imperfections make you beautiful. And this is a lesson I've been needing to learn forever. Someone actually gifted me this book when I was like 14. It was like The Gift of Imperfections. I still didn't read. I think I read like 2 pages. And I still need to learn that. I need to go find that book again and read that. Imperfections are sometimes character, and it's beautiful. We don't need to change everything about ourselves. It's not about like criticizing yourself. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about living a life that is in alignment with your soul. And living the best version of your life can change any moment, and you can change your reality. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. You have to give yourself permission, accept it, understand that you're going to have to fail forward, and that means it's going to be uncomfortable for your ego. But if you understand that and understand that's a process, then you have nothing to lose. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to say in this video. Actually, I think I made a video about this maybe over a year ago now. I was like, I should watch this back because I've already made a video about this, which is obviously deleted. I can't watch it. Oh my god, I've changed quite a bit. It's miraculous.